Hi, this is Russ Bucher from ControlMyNikon, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at how you can customize ControlMyNikon image files and folder settings. Now it's very easy to do in ControlMyNikon to be able to configure which folder that your images will be saved to and what the file names will be. And we're going to take a look at how you could set that up. Now, one of the first things you need to do is, let's get connected here. I'm on a D7000 connected to a Windows 7 64-bit computer. And I'm going to bring up the file system help for ControlMyNikon. And if you just go up here to help and tutorials using files and folders, it'll bring up the help. And the reason I wanted to show you this is there's a lot of little settings that you can make here using file tokens, a lot of information. We're going to talk about a bunch of this during this session, and we'll refer to this as we go. Now, one of the central concepts in ControlMyNikon is the use of file tokens and for folder and file naming. And tokens basically start with this @ sign here. And you can see there's different tokens for folders and different tokens for file names. And we're going to try these and see how these tokens affect the outcome of the file and folder names. Okay, I'm just going to move this help over here. And what you're looking at here is this ControlMyNikon version 4. We're all connected. This is the new image browser in version 4. And I have just onto an archive folder here. And what we're going to be doing is capturing some images using these different customizations for file names and folders. And we'll see what the names and folders come out as here on the image browser. So by default here, this is what you get when you install ControlMyNikon. You have a folder and a blank file name. So let's take a shot and see what happens. Now I've got a kind of a boring subject here, just a radiometer. I use it as a calibration device for the software. But let's see what we got. So it gave us a number here, number 29.jpg. And I'm just going to double click on this, bring it full screen. You can see the file name. And then I'm going to just hit escape to get us out of there. By default, you'll see that it is using a counter. And right now it's at 29. You can reset the counter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this file here. So I just click on it and hit delete on the keyboard. Hit yes, it's gone. So to set up the counter and the file name tokens, you go to the settings tab and under file name here. So this is where you're going to set up everything for file names. And this button here is your counter reset. So if you click on it, it'll say enter the new value for the counter. But let's say I want to start at 0. And then you just hit OK, and now the next image will start at 0. Now you could use this to help sync up with your existing counter in your camera. It could be that when you start with ControlMyNikon, your camera is naming files maybe as DSC 10,000. Well, the next image might be 10,001. So you could start this at 10,001 for the images that you import. But let's just start this at 0. And I'm going to take another shot. And you can see that it names it as 0. I'll take another shot, and up goes the counter. Now the nice thing about this counter is that it ensures that you have a unique file name, unless of course you go back and reset the counter and try to save back into the same folder. If we do encounter a duplicate file name, we don't overwrite it. What we'll do is we will rename the file. So I'm going to go back and rename this, reset the counter, I should say, back to 0. And take a shot. But now we're going to have a duplicate because we already have a 0 here. So I'll go shoot. And it's going to add something to the end here. It goes 0-570. This is just almost a random number. This is the milliseconds on the clock for when this image was saved. And if you were to keep on saving, the zeros here would stay the same and this number would change. So that way we ensure we never overwrite the existing image. Okay, I'm just going to delete these. They're gone. Now what this counter was the equivalent of the MCT file token. So file name token is right here, MCT. And what I'm going to do is take that token and put it here. So if the file name's blank, it's the same as this. The system automatically puts that in there for you. But you know, you don't need to use a token. You could have a anything you like in here. So you can just say, you can call it test 1. We'll take a shot. It's called test 1. You take another shot, it's going to be a duplicate. Okay, well that's no good. So instead, what we can do is a combination of the file name and the token. So we'll go test, and let's go test dash MCT, main counter. Take a shot, and that's at the current counter, which was at 1. Remember, we could reset that. And up it goes. Now you can put this token anywhere in the file name. You could put it at the beginning if you like. Okay, let's see some other things that we can do with this. Now, instead of a counter token, we can use a date token. I'm just going to bring the help back here. And we have 2 date tokens for file names, DT1 and DT2. And the difference is DT1 has more precision. It shows milliseconds. It's pretty well guaranteed unique. You can do continuous shooting where you're shooting a lot real fast, and you're not going to get a duplicate. If you do this one, however, it's to the second with continuous, you're likely going to get duplicates. Okay, let's give this a try. I'm going to try DT1. And we'll take a shot. So this corresponds to the year, month, date, hour, minute, second, and millisecond. So this is unique. So if you shoot it again, it's unique again. So what this will let you do is sort these naturally in a folder. All you have to do is sort by file name, and they're going to sort in the correct sequential order for you, which is important on some software that is going to import imagery. They may do it based on a sort on the file names. Okay, let's try some different ones. Let's try DT2 and see what happens. Now this is the one that has less precision. And you can see there's no milliseconds. It's missing 3 numbers off the end compared to these. This is DT1, and these down here are DT2. So date is a good way to name it, and you can put these anywhere that you like. So let's say we're shooting flowers. All right, let's try some more. So I'm just going to get rid of these. And let's take a look at some more tokens. Now, before we take a look at the batch identifiers, let's take a look at some folder tokens. Now, some of them of particular importance here are, we have one for D1, so this is basically dates to the day, and also extension, and then we're going to use this one to break out your RAW and JPEG images to separate subfolders. So first of all, let's give this one a try, at D1. And up to this point, I've just been saving here in this folder of C images, which is right here. Okay, so if I go like this, and these can be anywhere. You can have this if you wanted to. Okay, and you do not need to put a backslash at the end. It's optional. So let's take a shot here. This is going to be using the main counter, and it's going to go here. So it automatically creates a subfolder, 2012 August 3rd, okay, and it puts this image here that used the main counter. Let's take a couple more. Now when it reached August 4th, it's going to go into a different subfolder. Let's say I was capturing images of this subject, but I also wanted to break out the RAW and JPEGs into separate subfolders. Right now I'm capturing in JPEG fine only, so only one image per shot. So let's go, first of all, I'll delete these. And we'll say RAW and JPEG fine. And normally when you take this shot, without using the extension token that will put your images into subfolders, it's only going to show you the JPEG here in the image browser. And the reason for that is it takes a long time to load up a raw image and pull out the information to show it. It's very slow, especially on slow computers. So we only show the JPEGs. Okay, so let's give this a try. And with the EXT extension. And I didn't need to leave this date one in here, but I'll just leave it anyways. You could remove it if you wanted to. So I'll take my shot. Okay, and there's my JPEG. Now, we had two images, and if you watch down here in the bottom right where it shows the current profile, you see the two images transferred. 1, 2. So it's very quick. Now, when you look in the folder tree here for the image browser, you'll see that you're only seeing the JPEG one. That's because we're instructing the image browser to only show the JPEG ones. There's actually a NEF subfolder here, and you can bring that up by just right-clicking and hitting refresh, and there it is. And now you're actually viewing the NEFs, and it's important to know that in the image browser here, when you're looking at a raw image like this, it is just showing you the embedded preview JPEG, and it's a fairly low quality JPEG that is put there by the Nikon body. It's not actually doing a conversion of your raw data to make you a nice image, because that takes a very long time. You can't browse it. So let's go back here to the JPEG and take some more shots. So here we're still capturing the raw and the JPEG and breaking it out into subfolders. Okay, so we have 5 images here, and the top one ends with a 13. Let's take a look here, and it ends with a 13 as well. So it creates an image, this most recent one, a JPEG number 13, and the NEF number 13. We'll take another one, it should be 14. There's the 14 JPEG. Go back to NEF. There's the 14 NEF. So you can use this particular token to really help separate this. And this can be useful when you are capturing images, maybe for a focus stack or for intervalometer session, even bracketing, where you may immediately just want to use JPEGs to do some processing, but you'd like to keep those raw images in your back pocket just in case they need some tweaking someday. And so this allows you to just keep them separate. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom here and just show you that it shows some examples here, different things you can do. There's a lot of different examples about how you can configure your files and folders. And it goes down to the bottom here. It talks about how duplicates are handled. We've done that. And if you never want to have duplicates, the best way to do it is to use the @DT1, because that's right down to the millisecond. You'll never have a duplicate on this. On the main counter token, you may have a duplicate if you reset your counter. What I wanted to show you is the creating of backups here. And quite often when you're shooting, you want to save your images into a folder. And but you might not trust your computer or your hard drive. You have something critical there. You've just spent a lot of money on a shoot, and you need to get these images onto other hardware quickly, just as an insurance policy. So what we can do here is you can have ControlMyNikon set up a mirror folder. And what that allows you to do is to mirror your captured images using the same type of file names, the same folder structures into another part of your hard drive or onto another hard drive or onto a flash drive or even across your network for good security. So now the way we set that up is we just go to the Tools menu, Preferences, and go all the way down to MISC. And what this allows us to do here is go Enable File Mirroring. And now you can put in any path that you like here. Maybe I would put it on a different drive. Now when you take a shot, it's going to save your images just as it normally would here. And it's also going to put copies of those images here. And it'll maintain the same file name and folder structures that you've identified here in your mirrored area. So this is a great way to ensure that you have a little security on your captured images. If you want to get rid of it, you just get rid of the path, disable it, and hit close. Okay. Now, the ControlMyNikon version 4 has something new called batch shooting. And this is of use for high volume photographers. And this could be if you are a product photographer and you have 100 products you need to shoot and you have to ensure that their file names are correct and their folders are correct. So when you submit those images to someone, that those file names have meaning to the recipient. And it allows you to properly keep a catalog of these captured images. Another use of it is if you're shooting school pictures and you have a lot of students and you want to ensure that maybe a student ID is affixed to that person's captured image file in some manner. And you can embed that information right in their file name or even as their metadata. And there's another tutorial that we have about doing batch shooting, and that will show you more detail how to set all that up. You can even use a barcode scanner to scan this information in to ensure that information is attached to your image. But I'll just give you a brief demonstration of this, and it talks about it in some more detail here. But the tokens we're interested in are BID and BID counter. And BID is the batch ID. And we get a batch ID by going to the Tools menu and Batch Shooting. Now, let's say that you're going to be taking a product shot and you're taking a product shot of a silver ring. You're shooting jewelry. So you are provided with information about this jewelry and maybe the product ID or a UPC code or something for this particular piece of jewelry is 1,000. Okay, and it's important to you that that particular number, that 1,000, follows that image that is attached in some way to the image. So what you can do is you just enter it in there and you press activate, and it says the active batch ID is 1,000. Okay, I'm just going to move this out of the way and this help out of the way. And now if you're on a smaller computer here, the resolution that I'm showing here is only 1280 by 720. If you're on maybe a notebook or a laptop, what you can do is you can just kind of sneak it in here, just resize it, so it all fits in. Okay, so on the file name here, I'm going to go batch ID counter. Now this is a special counter. It's not related to this counter. This is your main counter. Every time you enter a new batch ID and press the activate button, and you have to press the activate button, it will reset the counter back to 0. And it's going to, on your file name, enter the batch ID with a dash and the counter value. But let's just give it a try here. I'm going to blow away these images here first. Okay, we've activated 1,000. Okay, I'll just change this a little bit here. Let's go back to see images. And I'm going to go back to capturing just the JPEGs. Okay, let's capture a shot. Okay, here's the first image using this active batch ID. It's 1000-0 basically. Okay, time for another shot of the same product. And you don't need to activate it again. So you just click on shoot. Okay, so here's number 1 of that. And now you can just keep on shooting. So now you've bound that particular number, that unique number, onto the file name. Now that batch ID can be letters or numbers up to 16 in length. So it can be very extensive. You could have something like this, and it would work just fine. Now, if you have a barcode scanner that has that batch ID attached to the barcode, then you can just scan it in here. And ControlMyNikon supports keyboard wedge scanners, and also keyboard wedge scanners that are USB but emulate the serial port. And those are really nice, because if you are currently have the focus, flashing cursor here, it will scan into there. You could be here and doing something in your image browser. If you scan something in, it's also going to go in there. So it's using it in serial mode is real handy. But check out that other video. We'll give you some more information on that. And actually, I have a barcode right here. I'm just going to scan it in. I'm just going to go somewhere else. And this is a $150 wand scanner. Okay, so it's found a code of 10,001 on this particular barcode. If I was to take a shot, there's 10,001. Started the counter over. Take another shot. See, I don't have to activate again. Okay, keep taking shots. So let's say I have another product. You could scan it. And I'll scan another barcode, slightly different number. I think it goes back to 10,000, and now start shooting. And that information is now bound in that particular file name. Now there's some other variations you can do here. And I'm just going to bring the help back up, because there's more information than just a batch ID that can go into a file name. Add batch ID counter. If you didn't want the counter part, but just the batch ID, you could do batch ID, but then it doesn't make as much sense in that, you're not going to get a series of images that are sequential. But you could see, you can use batch ID in a folder name. So you can have separate folders for different products. Now, we also have these, and these are for the folders and the files, and these are batch metadata tokens. Now what these allow you to do is include additional information from the batch ID into your file name, your folder name, or the actual metadata of your image. So in theory, you might have be shooting a silver jewelry, and there's a special identification number for that piece of jewelry. You'll be able to, using almost any imaging application such as Adobe Bridge, you can just search the keywords for your metadata, and you'll find this particular photograph based on that piece of information or any of the other related batch metadata. And I'm just going to briefly show you how to do this. Like I say, there's a separate video on how to do this. To do this, and I'm just going to blow away these images before we take a look at this. Go up to the tools menu, and this is the batch metadata, and I've just entered a little bit in here. And what this data is, this is text, and it's just comma delimited text with the double quotes on either side. And what you might do is go into Excel or a word processor or even Notepad, create this file, save it as CSV. You can open it here, you can lock it, which basically means you can't edit this, and then this number at the beginning here is your batch ID. And you can see when I scan this, batch ID in 10,000, it found it in the list. And I'm going to just expand this and try scanning my barcode again, except watch this. This time it's going to find metadata from that list. Okay, here goes the scan. So it found this first line, and it found these other fields, educational, MUCC, this, and that. So now what we can do is tell ControlMyNikon to save this information either as a file name or in the folder or as the metadata. So let's try including some of this information as a folder. So I'm going to use this first field. This first field is BD1, second field is BD2, BD3, and BD4. And I'm just going to move this out of the way here. So there's going to be an educational subfolder here when I take a shot. We see we didn't get that because I forgot to put in the token sign in the and. That's important. And it's also important that you use a correct case. You can't use lowercase here. These have to be uppercase tokens. Okay, let's take another shot. There we go. Now we have educational. And we have our image. Now you could continue to get more granular with this. You can go /BD2 /BD3 /BD4 if you wanted to. And now you're getting very granular with this. You're going to have a lot of subfolders, but your images are now really categorized within your folders. Let's try this one. So I take my shot. I'm going to try the other barcode. See what happens. Okay. So basically, we've embedded this information here into the file names and folder names. If you wanted to with your file name, you can also include these tokens here. So you can have almost any kind of variation you like. Now the system has a very rudimentary built-in barcode printing facility here. And you can see it's important that this barcode has this number attached to it. It's got to be in here. But you can print your own barcodes if you like to use them. The nice thing about barcodes is it just eliminates a lot of manual data entry. Now, what we've done here is save this information into your file names and folders, but we also put it in the image metadata. Now, if we go back up to the preferences screen, and I go to batch, this is where we set all this up. Here's where we set up our barcode scanner. This is a USB barcode scanner. It's a symbol LS2208, and but it's connected via USB, but it thinks it's a COM port with using symbols, virtual COM port drivers. This barcode report here I've set up here, and some options are we show our batch metadata when we're shooting, and that showed up here. If you don't set that, it's not going to show up here. And we say embed the batch metadata in the image file or as a sidecar for your NEF files. So this batch metadata will be inserted right into your JPEG file. But in dealing with a raw file, we will never modify a raw file. We will create a .xmp sidecar file that will sit beside it in the same folder. It'll have the same file name, just the XMP extension. And this is a common way of extending metadata, and it's been used in a lot of different imaging applications. Those XMP files will be read by most other image applications such as Adobe Bridge or AC/DC. But the option we want to look at here, it says embed the batch metadata in the image or sidecar as keywords. So if we go here and take a close look at the images that we just processed. Here's one, here's another. Now we have metadata here in the built-in browser. You can go down to the bottom. It's inserted as IPTC data, and there's only so many fields that we can use. What we did was we put in this data into the title, headline, description, job ID, and as keywords. So it took all that information and put it in keywords as well, just in case. Some imaging applications don't like to search on these other IPTC fields, but they usually search on keywords. So you're able to put it in there. When you click on it, also if there is metadata that's being embedded by ControlMyNikon, it'll show down here. And if you're viewing this image larger, it will also show it here. And we get that effect if I'm just going to open up settings here, and I'm just going to disable the overlay. We have metadata, and it will show it to you right here. And there's our 4 items. So as you go through your images, you're able to see what the different metadata is. So overall, for the files and folders, there's just a lot of flexibility here. And the key is to really sit down and think about how you want to organize your images. You have a lot of options to help you do that. And just go to the help and explore these different folder tokens, experiment with it, won't hurt anything. Go through some of the examples here and start organizing your files very effectively. And hopefully this will save you some time in your image capture workflow. So that's it. That's how you set your files and folder customizations within ControlMyNikon. Happy tethering.